Hello once again, and welcome to Ballin with Roy and Edwyn. I am Roy S. Johnson, and this is my son, Edwyn. And once again, we're going to talk about, just have a little bit of intergenerational talk about sports and life. How you doing today, Edwyn?
I'm good, Daddy. How are you?
I'm good. Another busy week of news, summertime action, and we're gonna chop it all up today and take a little bit of it from your perspective and my perspective. So let's start out, of course, again with LeBron James and comments he made on a show. I think it was his show called The Shop Uninterrupted. Now, we just heard a trailer for the show. We didn't hear the whole show yet, which is supposed to air on the 15th. But he said, talking about Brittany Griner, who of course we know is being held in a Russian jail over some drug charges that she was caught while coming into the airport in Russia, facing up to 10 years in jail and a trial that where she's already pled guilty. But LeBron said, now, how can she feel like America has her back? I would be feeling like, do I even want to go back to America? And he did backtrack a little bit, because this is such a delicate and touchy situation. He said, I wasn't knocking our beautiful country. He said this in a tweet. I was simply saying how she's probably feeling emotionally, along with many thoughts and emotions. Basically, he was like Dancing with the Stars. I mean, he was backtracking and moonwalking on that. Edwyn, what do you think of this situation? And I would never tell athletes to shut up and play. That's not my thing. But sometimes in certain situations, you just have to be quiet and let things play out.
LeBron should know better than anybody of all the things that he's done of being an activist for the last couple of years, with everything that's happened the last few years with social justice. And I would question him, is this really a beautiful country? That's one thing I would say to him, and he knows that too. If it was him in that situation, just like Brittany Griner's coach said, do you question, would he have already been freed already? Whether he'd been given bail or anything. Their court system, their justice system is completely different from ours. I don't know everything about that.
But I don't even know. I mean, that comment that she made about if it was LeBron James, they'd already be out. I mean, again, people are speaking out. Everybody wants Brittany home. There is nobody here who doesn't want Brittany Griner home. But this situation is complicated, it's complex, and it can't be distilled down into a cute soundbite about whether America has her back. There are people working almost 24/7. I would almost guarantee to try to get her here. Now it's going to involve a prisoner swap, and the person that we give up may be a terrorist. Which there's some people that don't think we should do this. So this is very complicated. And if it was LeBron, no, there wouldn't be bail either. They don't have bail in Russian jails, Russian prisons. The Russian system is very different from ours. So I just want to caution people, just be careful. This situation is being handled. All of us want to see her home tomorrow, but it's just not that simple. And the wrong words could actually change the situation overnight. This is a time of war. Let's all remember that Russia is at war with the Ukraine, which is also making it more difficult because the U.S., and rightly so, has been very supportive of Ukraine and the Ukrainians. So this is a very delicate situation. It's very unfortunate for this young woman who was who was arrested in February. So she has been in prison for a long time, in jail for a long time. Let's do everything we can, continue to keep her in our prayers to get Brittany Griner home. All right, now let's go to the NBA. Ja Morant made a comment that stirred things up, talking about, somebody asked him how he would do against Michael Jordan. He said, I would cook him. That's the mentality you have to have. What do you think of these comments, Edwyn?
You just said it's the mentality you have to have. Whether you think it's true or not, I don't think Ja could beat him, or in his prime, maybe now, but even in his prime, no, I don't think he would beat MJ. But if Allen Iverson crossed them over and hit the shot, Ja Morant could easily do that as well too. I have no doubt with that. But you have to have that mentality. You can't just fold over, think, oh, it's MJ, it's the GOAT. I'm just gonna fold over. No, he can beat me. No, he's gonna compete no matter who it is. That's why he should have won MVP this past year too. And he's going to continue to be in the MVP conversation. And as long as he continues to have the team in Memphis he has and play the way he has, he's going to continue to be a threat for the next few years for Golden State to win another championship.
You know, it's always fun to talk about these old school, new school comparisons. You're old enough to remember having seen Michael Jordan play, even in his prime. So trying to say whether a Ja Morant would beat Michael Jordan one-on-one, maybe he hit some shots. They're playing horse, he hit some shots. But in a big game in the playoffs, man, I don't know anybody that wouldn't go with MJ. And basketball is not about one-on-one, of course. It is about team play. It's a great quote. It's a great comparison. It almost even reminds me when AI came into the league, he wasn't scared either, right? These new athletes, they come in, you can't be scared. You always have to feel like you can beat anybody. At the same time, you respect everybody as well. They're all competitors. Everybody's trying to win. You're going to win some one-on-ones and you're going to lose some one-on-ones. So I think it was a great quote. I have no issue with it. And I love the old school, new school comparisons. Funny thing, we didn't hear anything from MJ. I imagine MJ just kind of cracked a smile and said, yeah, buddy, wish I could have seen you 20 years ago. All right, so let's talk about this. Now, here's another great quote. This is Damian Lillard from the Portland Trailblazers. And he talked about the passion of the game. He said that's something missing in our league. The passion, the pride, not just for the name on the back, but the name on the front. I love this quote. Again, the old school in me doesn't 100% like the super team era. Of course, it has happened before. Usually teams were mostly built through the draft. I have no issue with the system. Players now have more power than they had before. So whether it's Miami, whether it's Golden State, though, was mostly built through the draft, which is my preference, is old school perspective. So I have no issue with it, but I love to have a young brother come out and say, hey, have some pride for the name on the front of the jersey and not just the name on the back. What did you think, Edwin?
I agree with that too, and I think this deal that Dame got was for his loyalty. He has CJ McCollum, but it hasn't worked for years and years. Ever since they beat OKC in the first round, I think it was 2018, they didn't get better. And that's why they traded him. And when Clay was out, those two were the best backcourt in the NBA, but it didn't work. I personally think if Mark Jackson was the coach for that job, which would have been perfect for him, he would have held on to those two for longer and been able to set up a system, because Mark Jackson is great with guards. I mean, I know they're not young like Steph and Clay were, but he would have set that up, and I think they would have gotten better. We still have yet to see what Chauncey Billups can do. He's still young for a coach. But no, just the loyalty, and I think he knows that there is a strong possibility, or most likely, he will not win a championship. And I don't want to say that there are no possibilities, because again, there's still a chance depending on how much longer he plays. So I think he's 32, 33 years old. But his time is coming. You know what I'm saying? It's getting closer and closer. But I think most likely he will not win a championship. And I think he slightly has that in the back of his mind. But no, he's going to be loyal. But if he does win a championship, he wants to win it in Portland, the team that drafted him. Because I think even the things that have happened so far in his career, I don't think he thought that they would happen. Just coming out of Weber State, being a first-round pick, 6 All-Stars, top 75 of all time, which a lot of people really do question that, and I understand that. But he has accomplished a lot in his career so far.
Oh, absolutely. I just love it from this perspective that, especially in a city like Portland, which has been such a great basketball city for decades, for him to come out and say, hey, Portland, we're ride or die, right? I'm a ride or die with the Blazers. And of course, trades happen. Trades have to happen in order for teams to get better. Nothing against trades at all. Just a little bit of a poke at the ones who are chasing titles by going around from team to team. There was even a little bit of a talk about where LeBron may be threatening to go someplace else if they don't get Kyrie Irving. I'm like, LeBron, stop. Stop. You don't need to go anywhere else. And then it was interesting, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver made a comment mainly in reference to KD asking for a trade, saying that the league's preference is not for players who demand trade, particularly players like KD, who is really only in the second year of a contract. He signed in 2021 a $198 million contract. He's still got 3 years to go on that contract. So it's crazy that he's demanding a trade. I'm not mad at Adam Silver for saying that. It's like, KD, what you doing?
Yeah.
You know, show a little bit of a loyalty, at least to the people who are writing your check, who wrote you a big check right now. But it seems as if, KD is demanding to go someplace else, chasing that title. I don't mind if players do that, particularly towards the end of their career. There have been a number of players who were either traded or moved on in free agency in search of a title. Some get it and some don't. But I think it was interesting to speak out on this, to have Adam Silver speak out on this trend. At the same time, Damian Lillard said, hey, you know what? Have some love and have some pride for the name that's on the front of the jersey. So speaking of the NBA and pride, it did something that it probably should have done years ago, but I'm glad to see it finally happen. And that is the NBA owners and NBA players came together, put up $24.5 million to make payments to eligible players among 115 former ABA, American Basketball Association players who did not qualify for an NBA pension. So it means once that merger was made in 1976, the league only took 4 teams. You know which teams they are, Edwyn? Which 4 teams came from the ABA?
The Nets?
The Nets were one. They were the New York Knicks back then. Who else?
Yeah, right.
San Antonio Spurs.
Okay.
And one of your favorite teams, Denver Nuggets. Right? Was another
one.
Yeah.
I don't know the fourth one.
The Indiana Pacers.
Okay.
So those are the teams that rock ABA pride, and there are many former players on those teams who don't get a pension, and many of them are destitute. Many are ill. We have seen in the last year just really heart-wrenching stories of former players who died penniless, died alone in the hospitals. There's a great organization that has been trying to get this done called Dropping Dimes, the Dropping Dimes Foundation in Indiana. Been trying to get this done for years. So when Adam Silver called the executive director of Dropping Dimes and told him that the league and the players had come together 50-50 to create this pool of money, he cried. And the way it's going to work is that players who played at least 3 seasons in the ABA and did not qualify for a pension will get $3,828 per annually for every year of service. So at minimum, they can get about $11,000 a year. Now, that may not seem like a lot of money in the scheme of things for professional sports, but for these men, it really could make a difference in their quality of life. I know this is beyond your era and not something that a lot of young athletes are talking about today. But what is your sense of what the NBA has done, and how does it kind of put a bow on the era of the ABA for that league?
A lot of those guys who played in that era, played in the NBA, they paved the path for these players today to get paid what they're getting paid anyway. Back then, those guys had, 2 jobs, whether they were, they could have been plumbers or whatever. They had another profession while they were doing that too. So they had to go through a lot just for these players now to get paid the millions that they're getting paid anyway. I knew the Nets merged because of Dr. J, so they were the first one because of him back when they were in New York. But and just again, players like himself too, they definitely deserve to get paid too. But even those guys who didn't go into the NBA, you have to give them that respect though also.
Yeah, I think this is a great thing, and other leagues have taken care of some of their older players that predate some of the big money, in Major League Baseball pensions. NFL has other issues with health and also issues with athletes who go broke. But that's a different story. These are men who basically lost their income, they lost their health insurance overnight, and they're the game's forgotten heroes. They are still part of the foundation upon which young players today are making millions. So it was a great bit of news. I still, in my mind, when I heard it was 24.5 million, I said, man, that doesn't seem like a lot in the scheme of things, but it's something. And I heard nothing but appreciation from the players who are eligible for this and who will be receiving this money. So I don't want to poo-poo it at all. Could it be more? Absolutely. But it seems like everyone involved is grateful. And this is something that really helps put a bow again around the NBA's legacy, and not just the NBA, but the players, that the players are pitching in for this. Other leagues have taken care of a lot of their older players, but this is something that was long overdue for the NBA. So congratulations to the NBA and its players for coming together and doing the right thing. All right, let's go to the NFL. Everybody's kind of waiting for practices to begin, a little preseason. Everybody's itching for the fall. But there was a great quote from the Hall of Famer Jerry Rice, one of my favorite players, San Francisco 49ers, talking about Trey Lance, who I know is one of your favorite young players, a second-year quarterback, hasn't started yet, but a lot of buzz, a lot of talk about whether he starts this year, what kind of skills he brings to that offense. Jerry Rice said the sky is the limit for Trey Lance. Now, of course, there's a caveat, because Trey Lance is the brand ambassador for Jerry Rice's energy drink company, Goat Fuel. So Jerry certainly has a vested interest in the sky being the limit for Trey Lance. But even beyond that, I know you're excited about seeing Trey Lance and the possibility of him starting for the 49ers. They still have Jerry Garoppolo there. What do you think is going to happen, and how good do you think Trey Lance can be in the NFL?
Yeah, they still have Jimmy Garoppolo. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it's his athleticism. I think that's what we all know first. That's what he brings to the table as a quarterback. He played 2 games last year. He still needs to work on his arm. I think that's the big thing, is being able to have a system for him. Like all these other athletic quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Kyle Shanahan, being able to have a system for him in San Francisco, because you have the weapons and you have the offensive line. You even have a defense too. But can you be able to put him in position to succeed based on his skill set? You can talk about, in order for a quarterback to really be good, if not great, they're eventually going to have to throw the football, which is true. But just let him develop and get there. But just put him in position to succeed, especially if you're still trying to, make the playoffs like you did last year and just have a good season.
Did I say Jerry Garoppolo as opposed to
Yes,
Jerry?
you did.
I don't know. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for correcting me. I was like, wait a minute. What did I say? No, I totally agree with you. And there's no question that the 49ers have to make this move. They know how good they are with Garoppolo. They need to know, and they know that they need to be better. So I don't care what kind of competition they're going into training camp with. There is no question that Trey Lance, in my mind, is going to be the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, if not at the beginning of the season, very early in the season. So it's something they have to do. And also, Jerry Rice said a couple of things. He said some more about Trey. He said one of the things he has to work on, you mentioned he has a rocket arm, can throw the deep ball, can really stretch out defenses, and with that athleticism can, as Jerry Rice said, create nightmares for defensive coordinators. He said he has to work on his short ball. That's not unusual for young quarterbacks with strong arms, because they're so strong. They tend to want to use one speed all the time, fire it all the time. Jerry was like, dial it back a little bit, young blood, on the short passes. You need to learn to put a little touch on them. When they come in with all that heat, they're hard to catch. So look, if that's the one thing that he has to work on, I think they can start that early on. And even in training camp, just make some mistakes, got to figure out his timing, how to dial it back with that arm, as opposed to, boom, putting the fire on everyone, boom, putting the heat on. But if that's the only thing he's got to work on, then I think the 49ers are in for an exciting season. Anything else about him? What do you think about what Jerry said regarding him having to dial back on short passes?
Yeah, no, I would agree on that too, but I don't think that is the only thing. The short passes are what can save you too when you're not the most accurate quarterback, as opposed to go for something that's long, that clearly you can throw, you have the range. But if it's inaccurate, you could get an interception. So that's going to save you sometimes, rather than go for the home run. Just go for just a little pitch or the short pass also. But I think just in terms of him being, and I don't want to say he goes into the class of these athletic quarterbacks who aren't the best throwers, but I just have not seen a lot of that from him though. That's the only thing. I haven't seen him in a position where he can win games just yet. I mean, I know he's still young. This is only year 2, but still where he can win games off of his arm just yet.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be another young quarterback in the league with more of a spotlight on him than Trey Lance. So whether you're a 49er fan or not, people will be watching. Another quarterback people will be watching, Baker Mayfield, who was finally, as we talked about in the previous episode, traded by Cleveland to Carolina. You see what he's going to look like in a Carolina uniform. I thought it was pretty funny this week when he was introduced to the media there, and he said he has no animosity towards Cleveland. In April, he said he felt 100% disrespected, which isn't Baker. I mean, I get it. Now he's gone. Now he's happy. But just a few months ago, he felt 100% disrespected, and now no animosity. What do you think about all that?
He should have just said from the beginning that you feel disrespected, which should be very understandable, but he should have just stayed consistent with that. If you feel disrespected, it's okay to say that, because Cleveland handled it the wrong way. They should have went up to him and been honest, say, we're in the market for a quarterback. If we have the chance to get a quarterback who we think is better, is the right move for us, we're going to go that direction. You're going to let him know now, and just, I think that's what you needed to do. If you lost faith in him, if you do not believe he is your franchise quarterback, then fine, so be it. Just be honest with him and say, we're going to go in another direction if the opportunity presents itself.
And he may also have been setting up for the first game of the season, right? He faces the Browns. He faces Cleveland in the first game of the season. Not that he is necessarily going to be the starting quarterback. Sam Darnold was the starting quarterback in Carolina, and they are going to have a great competition. But I don't know. I don't know how you don't put Baker Mayfield on the field, particularly in week 1 against his former team. I know for one, I'll be tuning in to watch that. So thank you again, Edwyn. Loved it. Lots going on. Always a lot to talk about. A lot of intergenerational conversation this week. It's always good to try to make comparisons and draw the ties between the past and the present, because everything that's happening today was influenced by the past. The great athletes, the great coaches are all standing on someone's shoulders. Just that I'm standing on someone's shoulders and you're standing on someone's shoulders. So I think it's important for all of us, particularly as men, as we strive to succeed in whatever areas that we are trying to do that, to understand that we're standing on somebody's shoulders and that we're preparing our shoulders for someone else. Thanks again for watching. I hope you'll tune in again with us in another episode. So until then, what do we tell people to do, Edwyn?
Keep balling.
That's right. Peace.